Welcome to the Star Podcast.
Wow. Star Podcast.
Welcome to the Star Podcast, hosted by TPS Group of Companies. Each week, we share tips and stories from safety, trucking, and recruitment, and everything in between. Listen now. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Star Podcast. Today's podcast is a little bit different. We're always trying to share safety shares and information about recruitment and truck driving and everything in between. But today, even though I guess it's a safety share, it's a very personal and emotional story. Cindy, who works alongside of me at TPS Group of Companies, reached out to me and she said she wanted to come on the show and do a podcast episode about impaired driving. And she shared with me that 30 years ago, her sister was fatally killed in a drunk driving accident. So she was hit head on, and she wanted to come on the podcast and share the story about her sister and why she feels so strongly about being safe when you're driving, making sure you don't drink and drive, not driving under the influence. And I thought that was so brave of her. And I don't know that I could do the same thing, but of course I wanted to hear her story and honor her sister. And as you listen to Cindy speak, she's so brave, she's so strong, and I can't imagine going through that as a parent, like losing a child or losing a sibling. It's just the worst thing imaginable. So my heart breaks for her and for her family, but I think this was a really nice way for her to remember her sister and pay, I guess, a small tribute to her sister. And so this is definitely a must listen to episode. And so listen now. So I just want to thank you, Cindy, for taking some time to speak today about a really important topic, maybe an emotional topic, and something that I think is really important that maybe people just don't talk about enough. So I think it's really brave that you're coming to talk about this. So I was just hoping that you could share your story about why this is such an important topic to you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leslie, for having me here today. It's definitely a difficult topic. However, I think it's an important topic as well. So on June 24th, 1994, I lost my oldest sister. I was actually 16 years old. She was 20 years old. She was actually on her way from Chelmsford to Sudbury to go watch the movie Lion King. And on her way there, it was about 8:30 at night. I remember it was a Friday night. It was dark. It was raining. And on her way there, she unfortunately got hit head on by another vehicle, by a drunk driver. She had no fighting chance. She got hit head on, and she also got rear-ended at the same time. She was driving a little pickup truck. So she did pass on impact. The gentleman driving the other vehicle also passed, which I think that helped with the grieving process of my family. It was a horrifying night. I was out. She had just asked me, she asked me if I wanted to go to the movies with her, and I declined because I was going to meet a new boy. I was 16, right? So it was kind of like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with the boy. I declined, and she had dropped me off at my girlfriend's house. So my last memory of her was actually her waving me goodbye from her pickup truck and blowing me a kiss. And I will always remember that. It's like you have a photogenic, like I have a photo of her sending me a kiss, right? And I'll never forget that. And the phone call that I got, it was about, I'd say about 11 o'clock at night. And that little friend of mine, that boy, is the one that answered the call. And when he called, he says, your sister was in an accident. And my girlfriend's dad was coming to pick me up to bring me to the hospital, but I actually thought it was my youngest sister. because I have three sisters. And so when my girlfriend's dad came and picked us up, my girlfriend was with me as well. He says, no, it's your oldest sister, Nat. And I remember the drive to the hospital. He was driving quite erratically because he wanted to get me to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got to the hospital, it's I walked into the emergency room and they asked me who I was, and I'm like, well, I don't know. You're confused at that point, right? And I said, well, I'm
Yeah.
I'm Cindy. I don't know. I'm the sister. I'm the mother. I didn't know what to say, right? So they brought me into this back room, and I'll always remember the faces on my mom and dad. To see my mom was just, anyways, to see their faces, and it'll never escape my mind, right? My dad was just in shock, and then my other sister looked at me and said it was a drunk driver. And my sister Nat, she never drank. She was 20 years old. She had just finished school. She took the dental assistant program. She had just finished school, and she was actually looking for a job in her field. And she just enjoyed life. She didn't, like I said, she didn't drink. She would go out. She loved dancing. She would go hang out at the bars, but she was always the sober driver. And for
Mm-hmm.
this to have impacted her family the way that it did, especially with someone that never drank,
Right.
um, it was horrifying. So that's the night. That's the incident that I will always remember. But what happened after that? It's been 30 years. So last week, so on Monday of last week, it had been 30 years of my sister's
Wow.
anniversary. So when we had a team huddle last week, we're talking about safety. I just thought it was quite fitting because to talk about this, to have a podcast about this, just because it impacts a lot of people. And we've all been in situations where you see people, you're in situations that you're like, ooh, I don't think that person should be driving,
Yeah.
which I have been in that situation many times. And despite the fact that you say something, you feel that you should have done more because that person will still take off and drive under the influence.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why I wanted to talk about this podcast because it has impacted me and my family personally. And as much as it's been 30 years, it still hurts as much as it did 30 years ago. Going to
Absolutely.
see, yeah. So going to see my parents on last Monday, you always want to go and check up on your parents, right? Especially when they went through something like that. They still hurt every
Yeah.
single day. We will never be able to stop it. But if this could stop one person to do it or anybody, that's the whole purpose of this podcast because it's not a nice thing for a family to go through. And we lost my sister. There are some families that are impacted differently, right? They might be paralyzed. They might have different challenges going through this similar situation. There's also people that have driven under the influence that has impacted their life, where they might have done jail time, or if they had fines, or they had to live the guilt for the rest of their life that they took somebody's life
Yeah.
by making this poor decision.
Absolutely. And even the family of the driver, like that was driving in the accident with your sister, like they have to live with that. I imagine
Right.
they feel a bit of guilt and they still are grieving in a different way. So it affects absolutely so many people. And I'm so, so sorry that happened to your family. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it was a horrifying. It was horrifying. The first 3 years of my sister's passing was definitely the hardest 3 years of the 30 years that she's been gone. When you wake up a few days before Christmas and your mom has taken the Christmas tree down
Oh,
because she doesn't want to celebrate Christmas, but you're still standing there, and as a family, you want to stay strong and say, you know what? We are still here standing. We need to continue on with life and celebrate Christmas, despite the fact that we have a big part of our family missing, but we need to keep going, and even my dad, seeing my dad, his health disintegrating. I remember him smoking to the point that he would light up a cigarette with another cigarette. And we're saying, Dad, you can't. We are still here. You need to hold on and be strong so that you can be there for us too, right? So you've seen, and I lost a sister. My parents lost a child. And being a mother myself, I can't imagine losing a child. And I'm sure that anybody that's listening to this can relate to if they would ever lose a child or if they have lost a child, how hurtful that is.
Yeah.
So seeing my parents going through that, it's not a nice thing to see for sure.
No, for sure. And I think it might, and I don't know, I've never gone through it, but it's worse. Like accidents happen, absolutely. But this was a preventable, if someone
Uh,
had just made a different decision and decided, I need someone to drive me, I need to call a cab, I need to sleep
Absolutely.
it off, like whatever that different decision is. So I think that's why, like, it is so important that you're here and you're sharing your story and you're sharing that personal story behind the don't drink and drive. There's more than just that. Like, when you choose to drink and drive, you are possibly tearing a family apart. You're taking away someone's child, you're taking away someone's sister. So,
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And you really have to keep in mind if you are out and about and having a couple of drinks, yeah, start counting. Count how many drinks you had.
Mhm.
If you're not able to count anymore, guess what? You should not be driving, and there should be a limit as to what you can drink and then drive, right? I know for me, I will have one and that's it. If I have two, I will not drive. And that goes for my whole family. I have three kids that all drive and obviously my husband. And they all know how this has impacted our family and they know that they are not to drive. Well, my kids are all under the age of 25, therefore they can have 0% of alcohol in their system before driving. But they all know that it's an absolute no-no in how it impacted our family. And there's better choices out there. There's people that you can call like me. Call me. I'll go pick you up. I don't care.
Yes.
If you only
Yeah.
talk to me once or twice in your life, give me a call. I'll go get you. I really don't care. There's a lot of people that will go pick up anybody. And you know what? If somebody's upset to go pick you up, that's fine. Let them be upset, but they're still going to go pick you up, right?
Right.
If you get woken up at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're grumpy and say, oh my God, I got to go pick them up. Guess what? Bottom line, everybody's safe at the end of the day.
Yes.
And it's not a big deal. And like I said, I see it often where people will just go and it's like, really, is it that important to have your vehicle home? Like,
Right. Get it the
it's
next
not,
day.
there's always options. You can find a bike somewhere. You can,
Yeah.
you can walk, there's all kinds of options. There's no need to drink and drive. And I know right now we're talking about drinking and driving, but there's also driving under the influence. So, as much as marijuana is legalized right now, it still impacts your way of thinking when you're driving. So yeah, you can't. Just perfect example. Yesterday, I was actually riding my bicycle, and there's one vehicle that drove right past us, and it smelled like marijuana. And I'm thinking, why? It's you're driving under the influence. I am on my bike with my daughter, so what's going to happen when you turn around or whatever the case may be, right? It's almost like people are not realizing the impact that they can have on their decision when they do something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just,
It's simple. It's
yeah,
just don't do it. Just don't do it.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
plan ahead. If you know you're going to go out and have a few drinks or whatever you want to do, plan it out. What's your way back home? How are you going to get back home?
Hmm.
And guess what? If you don't have plan, that's fine. Then just plan not to drive home. Bottom
Right.
line, if you need to sleep there, then you sleep there.
Right.
It's not a big deal. And right now, summer's coming, right? Tasting better.
Yes.
Uh, People are out on watercrafts. Oh,
Yeah.
let's head out to the lake with a few beers in the boat. No, right? even that, operating any motorized vehicle. It could be a boat, it could be a Sea-Doo, it could be a four-wheeler, it could be anything that is a motorized vehicle, right? You have, especially if you're the driver and you have passengers with you, you have a responsibility. It's like being the driver in your own vehicle and making sure that people are buckled up in your car. It's the same thing. You have to make sure everybody's safe in your own, in whatever vehicle you're operating.
Absolutely. Are you able to share a little bit about your sister? I mean, like who she was?
Yeah, she was a ray of sunshine. She loved life. As I said, she wasn't a drinker. She was always a happy girl. She had just finished school. She was happy to attack on to the real world and finding a career. She was in high school. She was athletic. I always looked up to her. I always called her my big little sister because she was the oldest of the four. I'm the third one, and I always looked up to her. She was the one that I wanted to have the same shoes as her, and I wanted to borrow her clothes, and she always wanted me to be like her as well. When she purchased her first vehicle, which is the vehicle that she had the accident, it was a standard vehicle, and she was just when I turned 16 and I got my 365s, that's what it's called back then. She wanted me to learn how to drive standards, so she spent that time with me,
Oh,
showing me. I didn't even know how to drive to start with, but then she's showing me how to drive standards. I'm like, oh my God. But she just had this love of life and thought everything was funny. And she had this laugh that you'll never forget. And she was absolutely beautiful. And it's definitely something that I sure miss of her is her being around and hearing her laugh.
absolutely. So what if you can have people take away one thing from the story of your sister? Like what do you want people to take away from this?
It's plan ahead. If you're going to go out and drink or be under the influence of some sort or whatever it is, plan ahead. Don't drive home. There's other options out there. It's simple. It's don't go behind the wheel. Do not operate the vehicle if you're under the influence. It's simple, and planning ahead will get you there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this story. Again, I think you're so brave. I was getting emotional, and I don't know your sister. But I think that it's a really important topic. It's something that you maybe don't think about until you're affected by it. So anyone who hasn't been affected by it can take your story and think of that whenever they're thinking about going out or whatever. Like if someone can just think about what happened to your family and use that in some sort of way to stop anything else awful from going forward, I think that you and your sister have
Absolutely.
made a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I hope so. If this could impact 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, that would be something that I would definitely appreciate. There are some days that it's easier than others. Today, I'm actually able to talk about it without having a complete meltdown. Last week, it was a little bit more, I was a little bit more emotional about it, to be honest. I don't think I would have been able to talk about it and not cry last week about it. But this week, it's a different week, and every day is different. And you just have to learn to live with it. And that's just how we have been doing it as a family, is we have to live with it, and it's how you live with it too, right? But then again, if we can avoid living with it and
Right.
avoid people from driving under the influence, that's the whole purpose right now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And I think everyone else is really going to find it very important as well and appreciate you sharing your story. So thank you so much, Cindy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And please do not drink and drive.